Polestar is gearing up to do battle with some of the best-selling EVs in the country with the release of this. It's called the Polestar 4. It's a medium electric SUV and it's going to go up against the likes of the Tesla Model Y, Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5, not to mention a slew of forthcoming medium electric SUVs from the European manufacturers. This is the third iteration of a Polestar in Australia, following the Polestar 2 and the Polestar 3. We've got pricing, we've got all the details, but we're yet to look at this car in the skin in Australia, so let's take a closer look. So the Polestar 4 is already on sale in Australia, but the first deliveries will be made in around August of this year. Essentially, there are two different grades available. You have the entry single motor long range, starts at about $80,000 before on-road cost, just a little bit above. And then we have the flagship, which is the dual motor long range that we are looking at here, about $93,000 before on-road costs. Now, if you take a look at some of the competitive set here, the most immediate one is probably the Tesla Model Y. It's the best-selling EV in the country. It's about $15,000 less than this car at the base trim. But there's a good reason for that. Polestar says that they're trying to push this a little bit further up market. So they're looking at cars like the new Porsche Macan EV. They're looking at models from BMW, from Audi, and a lot of the European car makers. So I think with the level of equipment and things that you get with it, it goes a long way in justifying that. Of course, it will compete against cars like our award-winning Kia EV6 and also the Hyundai Ioniq 5. So as ever, the powertrain credentials of this flagship are quite impressive on paper. 400 kilowatts, 686 Newton meters, a 0 to 100 time of 3.8 seconds, thanks to a large 100 kilowatt hour battery. You're also getting decent on paper range as well, with a WLTP verified range of 580 kilometers for this particular car and up to 610 kilometers for the base model. Okay, so for me, where the Polestar 4 really starts to resonate is inside the cabin, because it is a clean sheet design. And with the Polestar 2 kind of only being my only real bearing for Polestar in Australia, that's a car that's based fundamentally on an internal combustion platform. Here we have a car that has loads more space inside. It's got a really nice flat floor, plenty of storage, no transmission tunnels and all of the rest. It's a really nicely executed space. It's practical, but you also have really great integration of tech. So the most obvious thing is the center touchscreen display. With the Polestar 2, it's a portrait-oriented display. We now move to a 15.4-inch landscape-oriented display. It's matched by a separate digital instrument cluster that conveys all of your key driving information. You also have the option of a head-up display if you opt for an optional $8,000 package. There's loads of things going on here, but it's quite well integrated. So something like 11 exterior-facing cameras, a host of cameras inside. I mentioned the exterior-facing cameras because that brings to play this rear-view mirror. If you look at the rear window, there is no rear window in this car. It is completely blocked out. That begins to make sense when you sit in the rear seats, but instead you have a rearwards facing camera mounted to the very rear of the roof. So you're still able to see everything that's going on. Obviously you can't sort of shift up and down to see things as you would with a regular mirror. So I'm really interested to test that in practice. But in terms of everything else, Apple CarPlay, you've got the Android operating system with Google, loads of clever storage solutions, and all in all, just a really comfortable place to sit. So the Polestar 4 really belies its medium SUV status in terms of rear seat space. So it's only 4.84 meters long in terms of outright length, but the wheelbase is just shy of 3 meters. And what that immediately translates to is loads of rear seat space. I've got that seat basically set to my driving position, and there's acres of room here in terms of knee room, in terms of head room, shoulder room, and all the rest. You could definitely ferry a couple of adults or little ones on long journeys in real comfort. Even though it's got a really nice raked roofline, there's plenty of window space in the back here, loads of amenity as well, air vents in both the B pillar and behind the center console. So everything is really well thought out here. It's quite interesting too. We don't often go into too much detail about trims and all of that, but this particular car has the tailored knit, so it's said to be like, you know, the knit that you find on a jogger, but you can also get sustainable Napa leather, which is said to be waste from the dairy and the meat cattle industry. So it's sourced very sustainably and it is able to be traced back to its origins as well. But a really nice place to spend time. And I think the beauty of this, you've got the standard glass sunroof, but because there is no rear window, the engineers have really been able to sort of bunk you right back at the rear of the car. You're getting more space than you ordinarily would. So that's the real advantage of no rear window. Now onto the rear of the Polestar 4. Honestly, you wouldn't really notice anything different about it, even though it's missing a rear window, which is kind of weird to say, but the design is such. It's so clean, it's so neat and well integrated. It's like every car has always featured no rear window. We'll take a look at the boot area since I have harped on about how much room you get in the rear seat. Do you lose anything in terms of boot space? Got to be honest, not really. There's still enough room for a full-size designer pram, full-size suitcases. It's a really nice flat floor space. You've got a little bit of storage underneath as well. Up front, you don't quite get as much front storage as what we've seen in the Tesla Model Y and other rivals, but there is enough room there for your charging cables. So that is the new Polestar 4 in a nutshell. As we've said, this is expected to be the new volume seller within the Polestar Australian ranks. Officials say that they basically be able to meet up with demand in terms of their allocation for Australia. The pricing is fairly sharp considering what you get, and I think it's a real clean sheet in terms of the design inside and out. I'm really looking forward to driving it.